has been severely hurt after an airstrike. We'll have the latest.
And Iran gets aggressive in the Persian Gulf and on social media. How the so-called Ayatollah is using the events of Baltimore and Ferguson to poke fun at President Obama.
And he could go all the way. Coming up, we're going to talk about a man whose dreams finally came true even after a lifetime of service.
All that and more coming up on Newsmax Now. And welcome to Newsmax Now on this Wednesday, April 29th. I'm Miranda Kahn.
And I'm John Bachman. Thanks for joining us. We'll start in Iraq, just on the border there with Syria, and that story we just talked about developing now. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS, apparently has been injured during a March airstrike and now is unable to move. That is according to a new report from The Guardian. He was apparently riding in a three-car convoy that was hit by one of those coalition airstrikes that we've been reporting about. This took place near the Syrian border. Several other Mideast-based news outlets are reporting similar stories. The Jerusalem Post has noted that the ISIS leader has been declared clinically dead by Israeli doctors. We'll have more on this coming up throughout the day. Also, did John Kerry really just say that? Today, the Washington Free Beacon is reporting that the Secretary of State told the Iranian foreign minister that, quote, he wished the United States had a leader more like Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. But to be fair, the paper is citing Iran's state-run media. Some of those same reports say Kerry's counterpart, Javad Zarif, has been, quote, ordered to stop screaming at Kerry behind closed doors during the nuclear negotiations. Washington Free Beacon reached out to a senior administration official who called those reports patently absurd. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Ayatollah's pandering to American youth on social media, about Baltimore and Ferguson, Missouri.
Saudi Arabia says it's foiled an ISIS plot to attack the American embassy in Riyadh. Nearly 100 suspected ISIS members have been arrested in raids since December, nearly all of them Saudi nationals. The group had apparently set up training sites where they were testing car bombs. They had selected several targets, including the embassy. Rescue efforts continue now in Nepal. 4 days after the deadly earthquake, crews in Kathmandu managed to find a man still alive, trapped inside a building. And as the recovery mission there resumes, the UN is putting out an urgent call for money.
The total figure for this appeal will be $415 million. The biggest budget items are not surprised to anyone. Those are food, water and sanitation, hygiene and shelter.
Some good news, though. Some banks reopened in Kathmandu for a few hours today. A produce market did as well, but aid is still slow getting to those remote areas. The death toll has now passed 5,000. The Pope continues to press for equal pay for equal work.
Per esempio,
speaking at the Vatican, he urged the faithful to support the rights of women, asking this question: why should it be taken for granted that women earn less than men?
There you have it. And a day after the Supreme Court heard hours of oral arguments over same-sex marriage, America is split down the middle on the issue, at least according to a new AP poll that shows half of Americans believe that the country should rule that same-sex marriage is the law of the land. 48% believe it shouldn't. And Republican presidential candidate Marco Rubio has been in California this week hitting fundraisers. Speaking in Los Angeles, he slammed the president's moves to normalize relations with Cuba.
But Chinese intelligence gathering facilities on their own shores. And we should not be cozying up to a government that systematically violates the rights of their own people.
Now, along with stops in L.A., Rubio also attended private fundraisers in San Francisco.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is apparently ready to run for president. The registered independent is expected to run as a Democrat and challenge Hillary Clinton. Several reports say he'll make the announcement tomorrow. We may be just a couple of weeks away from being down to just one Hojo's. Howard Johnson's, the restaurant chain that used to have hundreds of locations around America, is down to just 2 now. The one in Maine will close in a few weeks if the owner can't find someone to lease it. That would leave just the one in New York, run by John LaRock. He started working there back in the 70s.
The end of an era there.
Yeah,
the Hojo's.
Right?
Yeah.
We now want to take a few moments to talk about what's happening right now in Baltimore.
There's been an overwhelming amount of police presence on the streets. Also, the National Guardsmen have been out there on the street, but it seems like that state of emergency, if not officially, is now very calm. Calm, it does seem to be prevailing. This is what it looked like last night out on the streets. There was some minor disturbances, you could say, police out there, but you see almost more press on the scene there than you had actual protesters. One crowd had to be dispersed using the tear gas here. More than 1,000 cops, again, on the streets, backed by 2,000 National Guard troops.
I think the biggest thing is that citizens are safe. The city is stable. We hope to maintain it that way.
Also today, the Baltimore Orioles, they are going to play their game with no fans in the stands. They had to postpone their games yesterday and Monday. But again, that game will be played today with nobody in attendance, which will be really interesting to see. Something that we've seen happen before in Europe when you have these have tensions over a soccer game, something like that. I think this happened when...
But for it to happen here.
Yeah, no,
it's
and
just so unusual, and
it's
just
like if
shows you how bad the situation is.
If a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it still fall or does it still make a sound? They say.
Right.
I guess this will take place with baseball today. There will be TV cameras there, but it will be surreal. Well, maybe not so weird to see because a lot of times there's scant attendance at some of these Major League Baseball games.
Maybe like spring training, I would imagine, but hopefully that's the last time they ever have to do that.
Yeah, and of course, big topic of discussion on Newsmax TV throughout the day. Yesterday, Congressman Steve King, talking about Baltimore, says these shocking acts, specifically the rioting that we saw on the streets and the looting, well, it's stuff you normally see in foreign countries, something similar to what you were saying, Miranda. Let's take a listen to what King had to say with Steve Malzberg.
I watched that unfold too, and I watched it into the night last night. It looked to me that the cops had orders that said you're not going to engage them, and if they come at you, you have to back up. To think that ranks of officers with riot gear had to retreat from a mob, and they couldn't go in there and arrest, or didn't go in and arrest. You have to win that battle. When the battle's enjoined, that means you have to take them on. And they didn't. They backed up and they retreated, and they handed parts of that city over to the mob, to the rioters. And that's the kind of thing that you see happen in foreign countries, not in the United States of America. So they have to go in now and assert themselves and forcefully use whatever force is necessary to take control of the streets in Baltimore and impose order. This is a civil society, and rewarding people or allowing people to just simply standing back and watching them loot liquor stores and other stores and throw huge stones at our police officers and fire engines going through, getting cement blocks thrown at them on the way through, stealing cars and running them through through fires in the middle of the streets and threatening to run down police officers with them. All of that is sickening to see. A civil society should never have that. And whatever their level of grievance is, it doesn't justify what they're doing in Baltimore.
There you go. And the overwhelming police presence certainly out there now. And we heard from the governor yesterday, even late into last night, very quick to defend the local police department there and the response time from the National Guard troop, because both the governor and the mayor of Baltimore are under the microscope as in terms of the police response.
I thought what was really heartwarming was to be able to see some of these citizens and owners of these stores go out and defend their stores, their neighboring stores. It just shows that the community, you know, it's sad that it takes something like this, but is really trying to come together and say, not in my neighborhood.
Yeah, and there's definitely a concerted effort to present that side of the story on the internet yesterday. A lot of pictures circulating, little boys handing out water to the police in riot gear. So
and let's not forget that mother who put the smack down on her son.
We are definitely going to talk about that mother a little bit. And it's just, you know, I guess not surprising, Miranda, that people are even opinionated about that mom's response to the situation. Some folks say,
of course they are.
You shouldn't be hitting your child. I mean, really, in considering the situation, do we really need to be judging that mom?
You know, that's a tough call.
Hold your thought.
I can see right and wrong and
yeah, because we're going to talk about that coming up.
I'll leave it as that. We'll leave it to our roundtable to discuss that.
Right, more to come here. We'll talk about that. Hillary Clinton's Benghazi emails, well, they've surfaced. At least some have anyway. What difference does it make now that the congressional investigation is continuing? And some call her the mom of the year. Others blast her for hitting her son. We'll break it down for you coming up in our roundtable.
And also, when we come back, the riots in Baltimore forcing Major League Baseball to make some big changes, as we just mentioned. Why today's game without spectators is nothing new in other areas of conflict. And Samsung gets some bad news when it comes to the smartphone market. Why the company's latest effort to topple Apple is coming up short. That's all coming up next. You're watching Newsmax Now.